Tom Painter, thank you so much for joining us today. Today is a very special day. I've got two really good friends of mine on with us today as our guest speakers. This is Jeremy and Kristen Andrus. And this is what you would call a dynamic duo. This is a couple that have done amazing things, not only in business, but in philanthropy. They are making a huge difference, and they've had some massive successes in business. But I just want to tell you a little story about my history with them. I got a chance to go to Peru with them with my son, and the Andruses had three of their girls with them. They're parents of six children. They have four girls and twin boys on the tail end. And we were tracking all over Peru, doing these screenings, helping people, because one of the goals with the foundation is to help people with their eyesight. And we're tracking all over Peru. We're climbing Monte Picchu. They've got their three young girls. I've had two back surgeries, and so I don't climb very well. And they were just taking these kids all over. If I remember, Jeremy threw a couple on his back and took them all over the place. And I just want to tell you how impressed I am. The living conditions there are not very good. We traveled in buses all over Peru. And we would get out and go to a school or an organization, and we would do screenings, literally do screenings to see how people's eyesight works, and then be able to provide eyeglasses. Because, if there's one thing that I could help somebody with, if there's only one thing I could help them with, is if they can't see very well, they're not going to be very effective. And by simply adding and improving someone's eyesight, you can make a huge difference in people's lives. So I'm so excited to have our guests on today. We have participated them with other different projects that they have done, different philanthropy projects. And this is what you'd call an incredible dynamic duo. And for all the successes that they've had, I think I'm most impressed with the wonderful way that they have raised their family. I just love what they've done with that. I'm just so impressed. I'm one of 10 kids. I know how hard it is to have a big family. And this is just one dynamic duo. They're charitable, they're helpful, they've run big businesses, and they've made people's lives better all around the world. So this is our couple right now, Jeremy and Kristen Andrus. Welcome to our foundation, to Success and Money Live today. How are you guys today?
We're good.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here. We have 6 kids getting ready for school, so hopefully it doesn't get too loud in the background.
Well, I'm one of 10, and so I'm used to it, so go ahead. All right, take it away.
Okay, well, you gave a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much, Tom. And we loved getting to know Tom in Peru. And it was always, he was quizzing our kids every time we got in a bus, out of a bus. I think they had everything memorized by the time. And I think it's so interesting and important that you're talking about success and money. I think actually sometimes we think money is a taboo subject and we don't talk about it a lot. We're definitely not teaching it in school. We don't have courses like this. And so what you're doing is such a gift to the world. It's a gift to our kids. As you started talking about money, we realize how important that actually is, and that kids understand about cash and about savings and about, charity and things like that. So we're grateful that you've led out in this conversation. We're grateful for all of the people you're helping. Your foundation is absolutely incredible. I don't know a lot of people doing what you're doing. And so I appreciate that. I think it's good for our kids, everyone on here. And we're excited to share just a little bit about our lives. We have 6 kids. Jeremy works full-time he runs a company called Traeger Grills. Before that, it was Skull Candy, which is the headphones. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. I have been a stay-at-home mom, raising these 6 kids, but before that, I was in outside sales. I ran a small business. I've done a lot of different things. And now I spend, we drop our kids off at 8:00, pick them up at 3:30. And between that time, I'm out in the community, filling gaps, trying to help where I can. We love things like Charity Vision. We work with single mothers. We work with, small businesses, mentorship. We love working with refugees and mentor different families that come here from all different countries around the world. And it's just really become the highlight of our lives. And what we've realized as we've had some outcomes is that we could take the path of buying more stuff, and we're just not a fan of stuff. We don't like a lot of things. And so we decided maybe to choose the path less traveled and decide to give back where we can and to teach our kids about the importance of giving back. So it's been really the best part of our life and our family, and we're excited to share a little bit about that with you guys and some tips and tricks. The last thing I'll say is that I'm not a big goal. Like, I don't do 20 goals every year. And here comes, Christmas and the new year. And what we found works, since we have 6 little kids, is we kind of pick a word of the year. And our word for the Andrus family was discomfort. And I remember talking to my kids saying, this year, our word is discomfort. And they're like, Mom, that's the worst word. Like, why would that be our word? But we realized that when everything's going well and everything's smooth and happy, that is not where you grow. We grow in discomfort. We become who we are when the times are tough and we have to dig deep and figure out who we are. And we find that with our kids when it's smooth sailing. Here's our 4 girls. Our boys were not invited to this event. I spoke at the governor's summit this day. And so these 4 girls, when life is easy, that's not where they're going to become smart and hardworking and all of the things that we want for our kids. It's when they're uncomfortable, when we're out serving and helping and befriending in uncomfortable situations, when maybe things don't go the way that they want. That's where we grow. That's where we become better. And in the end, that is where success comes from. And so we're going to talk a little bit about finding success through discomfort.
Cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart. Cause you're a sky full of stars. Cause you light up the path. I don't care, I wanna tear me apart. I don't care if you do.
Okay, it's great to be here. We're so happy to share a few thoughts with you. One of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about is what have I learned from experience? You go through lots of experiences in life, and it's always been my belief that our ability to get better and to truly build a stronger foundation and platform relies in part upon what we can learn from others and wisdom and lessons, and others comes through experience. And we're gonna share 5 or 6 very simple principles that have been very profound in our lives that we have learned through some of our experiences. I'll start with this one. I've been a goal setter since I was a kid. I remember, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, every year with my parents, I would set New Year's resolutions. And every month, on the first Sunday of the month, I would go sit on my parents' bed, and I was one of 5 children, and we would all do this individually. And I would set a goal for the month. I would review my annual goals, set a goal for the month, and talk about how I'm doing towards my goals and just generally in life. And I came to appreciate the process of setting goals. And I still believe in setting goals, building plans. As a business person, we are always building a long-term plan, an annual plan, quarterly plans and measuring how we're doing in life. But there's another thing that I learned, I would say 6 or 7 years ago, as I was reading a book called Mini Habits. And there are many books that speak to this concept. But I came to believe that there are little habits that we form in our lives that are very powerful, that are highly repetitive, that are even more impactful than the goals that we set, because there are things that we do every day that make us stronger. And it's so easy to step back and look at people that do things well. We may idolize them as sports figures, as business figures. We may aspire to be like them. And from the cheap seats, all we see are the great things they do. Michael Jordan was an athlete I admired tremendously, even when he beat my Utah Jazz 2 years in a row in the finals of the NBA championship. And I admired him, but I saw him on this big stage. And when you get to know Michael Jordan behind the scenes and you read about him and you hear about how he became who he was, there were things that he did repetitively, over and over and over, day upon day, year upon year. And this is what the intent of these habits are. Habits that are so small that we can't fail, but so powerful that we do them day after day. And the example that's used in Mini Habits is someone who struggled to get in shape. And every New Year's, he would set a resolution and he'd go to the gym for a couple of hours every day for 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And then he'd quit because he'd get sore and he'd be in pain. And what he decided was he was going to get out of the bed. He was going to get out of bed the next morning before he did anything. He was going to do one push-up. And every day he was going to do one push-up. And then he would add to it and he would add to it. And it would become a habit that he simply couldn't do before he started his day. As I think about the things that make me strong, they're repetitive habits that are very powerful. And so, one I would share is my morning routine. I'm up early every morning. And the first thing I do is I listen to, I meditate, I read the scriptures, I think about my day before I dig into all of the noise of business, Wall Street Journal, whatever it is that creates a noise for the day. And that starts my day off the right way. And so I'm a big believer in picking not 2 or 3 or 10 habits, but picking one and mastering it. Spend 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. And when you cannot fail because it is so repetitive, add another one to it. Those stick with you for life, and they make you strong.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about courage. I've been working with a lot of students lately. We have something here in Utah that we just passed legislatively, where we have free period products in schools. And it's something that's been really, really important to me because girls in school often, and we know around the world, it's expensive to have period products. Sometimes we don't go to school. Sometimes we don't stay in school. We don't have access to what we need. And what I saw in working in this program and understanding girls' needs and talking to students was that courage was so important. And this picture is of my sweet friend, Megan. And Megan has been through really, really hard things. Both of her parents have passed away. She's a little bit on her own in Utah right now. She struggles with mental health and with depression and anxiety. But I watched this girl stand up and say, I will speak out about this. I will have courage. I will share my story and what's going on in my life so that I can help thousands and thousands of girls across the state of Utah. And what I realized as I looked at courage and I understood courage and I watched girls who are much younger than me, and you could say maybe don't have a lot, they were so strong because they were courageous. Now, what I also realized is you cannot have courage unless you are scared. So in order to have courage, you start with being scared out of your mind. And I think that's really neat to note, that anyone that has done anything courageous, think about those people in your life that you look up to that have done courageous things. I think it's so important to start with, they were scared, just like I am, right? Today I have a couple things in my day that I'm going to go and speak to people, that I'm going to go do things that I don't really know what I'm doing. And by the way, most of us are just making it up as we go along. When you maybe look up to people who have the success and money, or look like they know what they're doing, they probably started scared and they pretended that they knew what they were doing. And a little bit of what Jeremy talked about, the more that you do it, the more that you're scared, but you stand up anyways. The more that you're scared, but you show up anyways. You do the hard work. You do the stuff that's not comfortable. You will build and build and build upon that, where one day you're like, wait, I'm not making this up anymore. I actually have the courage to do this.
I'm such a big believer that we have the capability as human beings to overcome things that are hard for us if we're willing to do them and really face those challenges, but also if we're willing to practice them repetitively. The picture that you see, and I'm in the middle of this picture, you won't recognize me. I look like a 23-year-old young man. But this is a day that we took a business public. I was a CEO of a business called Skull Candy, had built it from startup. And one of the fears that I always had, and one of my weaknesses, was speaking publicly. I hated to stand in front of a group and have to speak. I hated the attention, and I hated how nervous I felt. And I realized that as I went on this IPO roadshow, I wasn't a good storyteller publicly. I was overly scripted. I was nervous. I didn't deliver messages well. And I decided, and it was right around this moment where you see the picture, that if I was going to be a good business leader and a good CEO, that I needed to learn to communicate better in public, that I needed to be able to stand up and deliver good messages in a high quality way. And I decided I was never going to go on something like a roadshow again and fear speaking in front of people. And so I decided that I was going to practice. And I looked for every opportunity I had to speak publicly. And I learned tricks about how little tips that were good for me that allowed me to get better and better over time. I learned that if I was over scripted, I didn't storytell. I learned that if I was under prepared, I didn't have confidence. And I learned that if I over prepared, but put the script away and brought a few critical notes, I was able to rely on my preparation, my experience, but have the cues to help me be strong. I realized that I was going to be nervous every time I spoke, but that if I walked out and I was prepared for the beginning, that once I had the first 2 or 3 sentences out of my mouth, I'd be confident. And I will tell you, it got easier and easier and easier. And actually, I remember, this moment where I was having dinner with a group of CEOs. It was the night before a big tech conference, Silicon Slopes community, or Silicon Slopes Summit the next day, a few years ago. And the head of NASA was coming to speak. And he called and said he couldn't get a flight out, bad weather in DC. And the table turned to me and said, "Will you speak?" And I knew there were 25,000 people coming the next day. And I said, yes. And I got on stage and I spoke, and I felt good and I felt confident. And that for me was a victory. And it was a realization that we can attack those things that are hard for us if we're willing to practice them over and over.
So I think often in life, we feel like we have to go it alone and we have to just work hard and dig down and do it ourselves. And what I have found is that life is so much more fulfilling. It's better. It's in all ways, it's brighter and more hopeful when you collaborate, when you invite a team into your life, when you build a village around you. We can't do it alone, right? We need friends, we need supporters, we need a team. I know even in our marriage, when Jeremy and I decided that we were going to take a team approach to life and parenting and entrepreneurship, our life became so much bigger and better because we were in it together. Trying to go at it alone, it's not as fun and it's not as exciting, and you definitely won't get as far on your own. I love the idea of collaboration over competition. I think oftentimes, just human nature, we end up a little bit in a competitive, and competition can be good. And you could say both of us are very competitive people. But when you look at life about collaboration and bringing in partners, bringing in teammates, bringing in a village, you will become smarter. You know, Jeremy and I are lifelong learners. We always want to learn from people. We want to bring more people into our home, into our lives, into our companies and our philanthropy, because we are better because of the other people and partners in our life.
Back to what Kristen said at the outset. If we are willing to be uncomfortable, that is when we grow. The ship is always safe in the harbor. It's always easier to be comfortable. But as I think back in the moments in my life where I invited discomfort, and sometimes where I didn't choose it, those are the moments that I became stronger. And I look for those moments. I am not someone who enjoys being comfortable, because I know that I don't learn and I don't grow in those moments. On this slide, you'll see a picture of me and 6 of my dear friends, founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and we go on an adventure trip every year. And keep in mind, we love adventure, but we're not survivalists. But we go on some pretty tough trips. We climb mountains to 20,000 feet. We figure out how to do it, and we do it. We go spearfishing for a week, and we bring spears, water, camping gear, and no food, and we catch our food. And sometimes we don't catch our food and we get really hungry. This is a picture of us heading into the Amazon. And this was the longest, most uncomfortable week of my life. Sleeping in musty, damp, scabies infested, sleeping gear, hammocks, 90 degrees at night with bugs eating you alive, and hearing jaguars attacking their prey not far from camp. It was emotionally exhausting, mentally exhausting, physically exhausting. I never want to do this again. But I left and I felt stronger, like I'd overcome something, because I had done something hard and something that was very uncomfortable for me.
So I love this phrase, and I'm actually speaking to a group of women engineers later today, and I'm going to be talking about this as well, because I think sometimes we can have that imposter syndrome of like, either I'm not enough, or for me, I'm too much, right? Like, I don't know if I belong in this job, this position, I mean, even as a mom, right? Or as a parent, you're like, how am I here? Why am I doing this? And in positions of our life, when we're looking at ourselves and saying, like, should I be doing this? Should I really go for that position, this job? Should I really go for it and go after being an entrepreneur, or whatever that is in your life? That's kind of that stretch goal, that stretch of like, maybe I'll do it. I always want you to ask yourself, if not me, if I'm not going to do it, who is? Right? We did that a lot with this period poverty, knowing that girls do not have access to basic period supplies. If I did not do this, who's going to do it? Who's going to stand up for those girls who don't have what they need? And maybe it's a cause that you care about. Maybe it's something in your community that you need to use your voice. If not me, who? And if not now, when? And we can ask ourselves that over and over. And we can also talk to our kids. If we have kids, we can talk to our kids about that. But it's a great question to always ask yourself, if it's not me, who is it? And the answer is always, it's me, and it's now.
So I've talked about, I talked about about being uncomfortable and that how that forces us to grow. And I think doing hard things really requires us to get stronger. I have learned to appreciate moments of adversity in my life. And I will say that that has not always been the case. I always look back and I appreciated the adversity when I saw it in the rearview mirror. I appreciated what I learned from it. And I know that in the smoother moments of my life, I have never become stronger. But I found that if I'm willing to do hard things and I'm willing to really embrace the challenge of the moment that I'm in, not only do I solve the problems better, not only are they not a burden, but I can actually script a positive outcome and define the principles that I'm learning in that moment that I'm going through hard things. I'm going to wrap up with this one. This is a picture of a Wayne Marino. Wayne Marino was the number 2 in building Under Armour, very large athletic brand, from $50 million to $2 billion. I called Wayne Marino in 2012. I was a CEO of Skullcandy. We were not performing well. We were public. We were the highest shorted stock on the NASDAQ stock exchange. And someone recommended that I call this brilliant operator. And I called him and he took my call. And we spent nearly an hour together talking about my challenges. It was a cold call. And I found him to be so generous with his time and so incredibly wise. Wayne said, I'm coming out west in a couple of weeks. I've got to fly through Salt Lake on my way to Tahoe. Would you like to grab lunch? And I said, I would love to. Thank you. Wayne showed up to my office in Park City with a couple of bags, and he spent the next 2.5 days with me, whiteboarding all of my problems on the whiteboards in my office, taking pictures of them so I could record them, and really imparting wisdom that he had learned through hard experience. Wayne became a friend. Wayne now sits on my board. He has for nearly 8 years now. And, you know, it's interesting. Early on, I asked myself, why did Wayne pick up my call? And why has he been willing to be so helpful? And I think I know the answer to that now. Wayne picked up my call and was so helpful, and it's motivated me to pick up other people's calls. And this is the virtuous cycle of entrepreneurship, of life. I think there is so much value in finding a mentor who cares to be helpful and who cares about you. And when you have learned, you then have the opportunity to do the same, to pick up the call, to care about people who are in need of advice and of wisdom and of mentoring, and to be helpful to them. You know, I'm going to stop there, and I just want to close with a couple of thoughts. The first is, we have so much opportunity for continuous improvement, to get better every day, to learn every day. We don't ever develop everything in a moment, but we chip away at life one lesson at a time. And it's such a great opportunity. It's something that I have come to appreciate. And it's something that I focus on even today. And I would say even more so, I have found the joy of life is little baby steps of progress every day. And I'll also close by saying, I love what Tom is doing. You know, I loved watching him teach our 3 girls some very simple concepts that I will tell you they remember today. Make money, separate money, give money away. These are such simple but profound principles in life. Tom, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Well, thank you. You know, when I think of one of our taglines, which is make a difference, make it happen, and every life is precious. That should be on the two of your business card, because of all
Thank you.
of all the people I've worked with, this dynamic duo definitely do that. They make it happen. They make a difference, and they are just so giving and loving. Thank you so much for being with us, guys. We love you. We
Thank
appreciate what
you.
you're doing, and we will see you again sometime in the future. Thanks
Love
again,
you.
guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care,
Thanks,
Tom.
guys.
All the
Good
best,
luck.
guys. Take care.
Thank